podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to Howie the Podcast. It's Gav and you join us for our preview of the game between Sunderland and Huddersfield in the League Cup this evening. It's a break from the Premier League. We get to face a team we've actually faced a bunch of times over recent seasons in league action, but Huddersfield are back in League One, we're back in the Premier League, and Lynden Gooch is back on Wearside, so there's lots to chew over here, and I'm joined by two lovely young men. First up, we've got Andrew Smithson, who's surprised by my assertion that he's a lovely young man. Hello, mate.
Hello. Yes. Yeah. You've caught me on the hop there, Gav. You all right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to build you up, mate.
Thank you.
Remind you that you're only as young as the man you feel. And I'm also joined by Ant Watson. Hello, mate.
You all right? I'm not being called young for a long time, so thank you very much for that, Gav.
Yeah. Well, as long as you feel better about it, I've done my job, haven't I? So Sunderland against Huddersfield, chaps. It's not the epic draw I was hoping for when I seen, the potential of, was it Bromley away and the likes. I was thinking, that would be nice just to go somewhere a bit weird. But as we all know, Sunderland never get attractive cup ties. We always end up playing somebody that you look at and you go, ugh, a home game against Stoke, a home game against Wigan or Blackburn. It's Huddersfield's turn this time. And this is a chance really for the manager to rotate things, as it often is early in the cup games, given that we effectively split the squads over pre-season. We're 2 league games in now. This is the chance of the players who haven't probably been getting many minutes in the first couple of games to prove their worth. And as I said, Huddersfield are in League One, but they're doing very, very well. They're second in the table. They've won, I think, 3 out of 4 games. They're doing very well. And, we've got to make sure we get through this game somehow with a bit of pride intact. I mean, it would be nice to have a cup run. It would be nice to see many of the players who are going to feature show their worth and potentially push for a start at the weekend. So there is lots to sort of look forward to. But Andrew, as me and you were talking off air there, we were just talking about the crowd. It's probably not going to be a very big crowd. I think if we get somewhere near 15,000, that will be a good crowd for this particular game, because as we know, the club, they don't open up the full stadium. They only open a couple of stands, and then as the demand increases, they might open up other areas of the ground and stuff. But it probably does highlight, doesn't it, that this is a game that, early in the season, a cup game. I don't think many people really care too much about cup games early doors, but we'll all be there, won't we? So we certainly care about it, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Well, that's it. I really enjoy cup games, and particularly this season, with us having fewer league matches, there's not going to be many nighttime games to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So I, like yourself, Gav, I'm going. I'm looking forward to it, but I do think we're in the minority, and it's one of those things where perhaps the club don't see it as the main priority, the fan base don't. So, you're hoping the first few minutes the team start well and get a bit of atmosphere going, and it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? When you look at the ground and half of it's shut, it must be, for the players, that can't be good. When you think back to the first game of the season against West Ham, and the atmosphere and the place was rammed full and stuff. It really did. I think the fans had a huge part to play in getting the result. You heard that when you heard the players after the game talking about the crowd, and then you heard Graham Potter mention how it was one of the best atmospheres he'd witnessed in the Premier League and things like that. This is going to be very, very different. And I'm not saying that the players have got an excuse to not get up for it, but it doesn't feel the same as a league game. And I just think, we can talk about it, but there are a lot of players who we'll get onto that, because we'll talk about who we think is going to play in the game. But more generally, I think when there's going to be a lot of players who probably have to prove something in this game, it's not going to help them that the crowd's not going to be particularly big and half the ground's empty. I wish the club would just open the whole ground up. And even if people are spread out a little bit more around the ground, it's better than cramming us all into 2 or 3 stands. And Yeah, are you going this one? Are you going along or not?
Well, no, because I'm at work until 8. So
You've got a great excuse then.
Yeah. You've got us on the aftermatch pod. So I'll be watching it and all that. So I will be keeping an eye on it and everything like that. But yeah, I kind of agree with you because I always when we got promoted, it was kind of like, oh, gone are the days where we're going to be watching like John McLaughlin running into the stands to get the ball, like what he did against Gillingham in the FA Cup all those years ago. And I agree. I mean, if it's sparse, but let people sit where they want to sit. You know what I mean? Don't just say, oh, you're going to be, herding into the east stand or the side and the other, because it still doesn't generate a great atmosphere anyway.
I think it's a pounds and pennies thing, that mind. I think it's just a case of, having to hire more turnstile staff, stewards, bar staff,
yeah,
I think that's why they do it.
But it's not club anymore, though, are we? You know what I mean? It's not as if we are in League One and all the cost cutting exercises need to happen like what they did. You're talking about a team who's spending 25 million quid on footballers. You're not thinking they can open up the stand. You know what I mean? And even so, for stuff like this, and I've always said this with the League Cup, it's always like one of the first couple of weeks of the season. The kids are still off, on the school holidays and stuff like that. Make it like free entry for kids or quids. When we did all those years ago, do you remember when we did it against Arsenal, where it was like kids for a quid or something or other? And we got loads there. It was about 30,000 fans there, and it was a cracking atmosphere. You do something like that, make it this kind of special occasion or something. But
I don't know whether there's competition rules you have to adhere. I might be wrong, but there might well be competition rules because the tickets are relatively cheap. I mean, it's £10 for an adult, £5 for a child.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. If there was, I often think that I would rather have a full stadium where everyone's paid a quid than a half-empty stadium. Andrew, it's I don't know about the competition rules and stuff, but where do you stand on that? Do you think the club should open up the full ground and let people? Because I actually think, if people could pick their own seat to go to the game, I think you would have more people there anyway. I know. If I'm going, but I'm not enamoured by the fact I've got to sit in the southeast corner. I would rather be in my own seat.
I've heard a lot of people are put off by that. The inability to go in their usual spot. I actually enjoy being able to go somewhere different and just watching the game from somewhere else. I think I mentioned to you earlier, I'm actually going to be in the standing section in the Roker end. So for me, it's actually a good thing, but it does put people off. In terms of competition rules, I know the FA Cup does have a minimum amount you must charge. I don't know if it's the same for the League Cup. I suspect, though, that both teams have to come to an agreement. And I sometimes wonder if clubs think, oh, we're away to Sunderland, cracking, we're going to have a bumper payday, we're going to fill our boots here, and insist on prices which maybe aren't going to attract crowds. Although, like you say, I think it's £5 for kids tonight, so it's not too bad. Unfortunately, you've got a lot of people on holiday and what have you. That impacts things, Gav. I think it's just been part of the Sunderland culture for several years now that the cup games don't really seem to capture the imagination. I think at least the people that will be there this evening are going to be quite positive with how the season have started. And as I said earlier, if we have a couple of good tackles in the first few minutes and what have you, that might actually spark a bit of atmosphere, and it might still be a decent night to be at the ground. But I can see both sides. I can see what you're saying about money, and if you open up the whole stadium, you've got to pay the expenses. But then restricting sales does turn a few people away from it. It's a long way of saying, Gav, I don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
It's one of them things where I even think back to the really good cup run we had in 2014 when we got to the final. If you look at the crowds I went every game in that run because we had loads of home games. If you remember, I don't think we even had an away game till we played Man U, did we?
No, that sounds right. It was all at the stadium, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I went every single game, and it was like 16,000, 21,000. It was something along those lines. I remember watching the quarterfinal, and the ground wasn't very busy. So, I think traditionally we're just not a fan base who embraces the cup. I think, to be honest, when you look at the results we've had over the last probably 10 years, in cup competitions, we generally go out at the first hurdle. We're not very good at it. We had that run in the League Cup under, was it Lee Johnson? When we played Arsenal at the Emirates.
Yeah.
It was Lee Johnson.
Would have been excellent board, was he, wasn't it?
Yes.
It would have been.
So we did have that run. But generally we don't seem to embrace the cups. I don't know. And I think, to be honest, with this one, it's a little bit different to previous years because, and we'll go into this now, the team that Sunderland could potentially field for this game, I'm actually quite excited to see this team play because there are players in there I haven't seen the flesh yet. There are players in there who I like, who haven't really had opportunities and are going to want to prove themselves. Because, after losing a game on Saturday, this is their chance to show Régis Le Bris, you should be starting me on the weekend when we play against Brentford. So there are a lot of reasons to be quite excited about this one, and I would be disappointed if people aren't turning out for it, because I think this is a great chance to see them play. I know as well, by the way, the other thing is that Sky Sports now show every single game live, and it's very easy to just watch it in the house, and I would understand totally why people do that. But I really do hope, even people listening to this might think twice and go, actually, I might go tonight. Because like I say, I think, although, yeah, I agree with Ant, it would be great if we could drop the ticket prices to £1 and just fill the place out. I still think £10 for an adult, £5 for kids is all right. So I'm hoping there'll be people listening to this who probably didn't know that, and they'll go, actually, I'll go along tonight and get behind the lads. But to talk about the team that we might potentially field, I did this the other day. I actually went through it on one of the pods the other day and kind of went position by position. But I think we should probably do that now between us and try and work out what they're going to do, because obviously a few things have changed since the weekend. Obviously, Dan Ballard's injury, the fact we lost, it'll have changed in a couple of places where I thought maybe this player will start or that player will start. Let's start with goalkeeper. I think this one's probably obvious, Andrew. I mean, and before we actually go into the position by position, just so we can set some ground rules here, I presume we're all expecting this to be a much changed team. Nobody's really expecting the manager to start many of the lads who start the first two games.
If any at all. Any at all, to be honest.
From what I gather, it was Le Bris's assistant that took the press conference, and I think I haven't seen the footage myself, but did he give any clues away?
No, I've just watched it before we started recording, and it was more him. I think certainly the bit that was streamed, it was mostly the media just asking questions about him and his career, and there was very little about the actual game. I mean, he talked about Dan Ballard. He said he was having a scan, and we'd find out more about it. By the time this pod goes out, we might know more about that injury that he picked up. And he didn't really give anything away on the team selection front. He just said Régis is going to make that decision this evening. Kind of hinted there would be changes. I think we're all expecting I'm certainly expecting at least 10, maybe even 11 changes. There's quite a lot we can change.
I would expect so, just purely for the fact that we've just come out of a Premier League game against Burnley, and we've got another one this weekend. It would be a surprise purely from that point of view to think we're flogging some of the players with 3 games straight away. I'm like yourselves, gents. I'm confident it'll be a much changed team. One of the things that'll impact the crowd, I think, is we're all expecting it to be a lot of changes to the side, but this time these are all going to be players who last year were our first team, so they're all players who were popular with the fan base. Perhaps in the past, when we've named a second string side, there's been 1 or 2 under 21s players or players that fans aren't familiar with. But goalkeeper, as you say, we're going to start with the goalkeeping position, is a classic example. More than likely, Anthony Patterson's going to play. He was our first choice goalkeeper last year, so everybody knows him. We're familiar with him. He's a popular player. He was brilliant at Wembley. So there will be fans that come along tonight just because they want to see 1 or 2 familiar faces and support them and show a bit of appreciation for the fact that a lot of these lads were a massive part in us getting promoted in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll start with that one then. In goal, yeah, I think it's going to be Pato. I don't know if anybody disagrees. I think if you were trying to make an argument for somebody else, you could potentially say Rofe starting just because they want to get him some consistency, keep him playing and stuff if he's a clear number one. But, I think about what type of message it sends to the players who are waiting to play a game. If you get this opportunity, which you're not going to get many of, to bring them in, and you actually start the lads who've been getting the game. Was that tell Anthony Patterson, really, So no, I think you're probably right there, and unless anyone wants to disagree on that, we'll say Pato in goal. Left back, again, looking at it, we don't have a lot of options in this position because Sirkin's still injured, Hjelder's still injured, Elise is not fit yet, O'Nien's not fit yet. They're all players who can play left back. And Arthur Masuaku's made the bench for the last couple of games, so I'm guessing he's going to get his first start. And Masuaku's somebody who I'm actually looking forward to seeing, because from what we hear, he was quite popular at West Ham. He was not the best defensively, but going forward, very, very good, and was there for 7 years. I mean, the West Ham fans loved him. It'll be really keen money just to get out there and show what he can do. And given we're playing a League One team, you'd like to think we're going to have lots of the ball, and we're going to need players who are good out wide to get good crosses into the box. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing him, even though he's probably one of the less glamorous signings we've made this summer.
No, you're right. He's probably gone under the radar a little bit, hasn't he, considering how many people we have signed he has. Yeah, I agree with you. I think probably both fullbacks who we're bringing will want to bomb forward. Obviously, we'll get into the right back later on, but yeah, looking at him, he is one of them ones who likes to get forward, likes to put some crosses in and stuff like that. So it's an ideal debut for him, isn't it? No real pressure, against Huddersfield and all that. Whatever team I put out, I still expect us to beat Huddersfield. No disrespect, but yeah, it'd be good for him to see what he's like, bombing forward, put some crosses in, get his first game at the stadium. It's an exciting time for him. I think he's probably, when you look at it, like probably one of the first names on the team sheet for tomorrow, because they will rest. They'll obviously rest a lot of players and stuff like that, but I would imagine that we'll definitely rest Ronaldo, considering he's played 290 minutes and not had much of a pre-season, has he? So he'll definitely get a rest.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Masuaku got the full 90, though, I think, because he hasn't had any pre-season minutes. So I'm expecting him probably to get an hour or so. Over on the other side, Andrew, Niall Huggins, I'm thinking. I can't really think of anybody else who would play.
I would assume so. The only caveat to that is who plays in the centre of defence. And if Nordy isn't given a spot in the middle of defence, he might play at right back. But yeah, Niall Huggins needs games, not just for the club's sake, but for his sake. He's been out of competitive first team action for so long. He's worked really hard to get back, and he needs to be now given the opportunity to show, can he do something at first team level? Because before his injuries all started up again, he was in real good form, Niall Huggins. He's there's the potential there for him to be a very good player.
Yeah. I get your point actually about Mukiele. But I'm just thinking.
Pronounce his name, Gav. I didn't say Michele because I don't know how to pronounce it yet. Yeah, Nordy.
I think just given the situation with the centre of defence, the fact that that Dan Ballard, is probably going to be out for at least a short period of time. We need to see him at centre half, I think, because he might well have to play there on Saturday. So yeah, I'm thinking Mukiele playing centre half. And to be honest, we don't have that many options, do we? We know we're still in pursuit of John Lusumi, and that's not going anywhere at the minute. So we're probably going to be looking at Jensen Seelt starting at left centre half. He's actually played a fair bit. I mean, he obviously came off after 50 odd minutes in the first game of the season with an injury, but then came on to replace Ballard. And considering he was chucked on really early in the game, I thought he did all right. But I'm not convinced totally by Jensen Seelt. But when you look at the options, we've just sold Neca Triantis. Ballard's injured. You could make a case for Alderete starting because he hasn't had much of a pre-season either. And it was Nick Barnes on the pod we did on Sunday who pointed out, he was kind of blown out of his arse a bit towards the end of the game. And
Big style.
Maybe he needs the minutes, So that's a toss up. There's another. There we go. There's a curveball because you could make a case for Mukiele right back, Sealt and Alderete together at centre half, to just get minutes into the legs that some of those players need. But then again, that's not particularly fair on Niall Huggins. I think there's probably more balance if you play Huggins right back, given the opponent, play him right back. He likes to get forward, and then 2 out and out centre halves. But I think it all depends on kind of how they're assessing Alderete and maybe looking at him and going, actually, we think he needs an hour tonight just to get more minutes into his legs. I half suspect though that he's not going to start, but it's a possibility, isn't it, Andrew?
It's a possibility, and Le Bris, there will be an element in his team selection of not necessarily how do we win this game, but how do we get these players ready for the Premier League? So he might decide that it's better long term to give players minutes into their legs just so that they're able to play at the weekend. I'm just another name to throw into the mix there, and I'm cross with myself because I'm pretty sure I saw him in Tesco on Monday. I wonder if I should have flagged him down in the aisles. Harrison Jones. Yeah. Does Harrison Jones maybe get another chance at left back, and that then puts Arthur Musaku somewhere else? I don't know. I just, as I say, I think a lot of the team selections will be with one eye on almost this being a pre-season game rather than it being a competitive game. I suspect.
Yeah. So if we're going to hang our hat on it, though, we're thinking Huggins, Mukiele, Sealt, and then Masuaku. I'm thinking that's probably going to be the back four.
I would definitely not have both Alderete and Sealt there, because if one of them gets injured,
I was just thinking that.
Like if Sealt gets injured or Masuaku gets injured, we've still got Alderete to come in, haven't we? So to play them both, I think it'd be very unwise considering. I mean, it's just how we're looking at that. Obviously, this would have been an ideal game for Triantis, but obviously he's gone, and then Ballard gets injured. It's just it's such a shame, but never mind.
Yeah. We've had some great pronunciations and names on this, by the way. People are going to be screaming at us. I think you just called him Mukiaku. I don't know what you said.
Oh no, that's Madueke. I wanted to. It was just signed for Arsenal.
Andrew said, and I think Andrew called him Masaku, and I think it was Nick Barnes on Sunday called him Musuaka. So,
do you know what, right? If anyone wants to call me out or pronounce people on podcasts, come and say it, because I really could not care.
Do you know what it is? I've been awful all summer with names, but like everyone else just makes us feel so much better about yourself, and I get it wrong as well.
And you're saying there you're not bothered if people call you out. What if one of the players scores tomorrow and then runs up to you and starts pointing to the back of his shirt saying, come on, that's how you pronounce it.
Honestly, I mean, it's got slightly off piece when I was calling Katie Watson, who was a striker full of lasses. I was calling her Katie Wilson for about 3 months.
Well, I've had to correct me dad so many times at the games already this season. What do you call Alderete? Lasseretti? I think he's So I think there's a lot of people in the same boat. Anyways, we'll move up to the midfield, assuming we're probably going to go with a similar type of shape. Well, actually, no, let's not assume that. Let's discuss that very quickly. What we're thinking, 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, because I was thinking Isidore and Gue probably need to play this game. That doesn't mean that they're both going to play as out and out centre forwards. Isidore can play wide left. But I'm kind of expecting it to be some sort of hybrid of a 4-3-3 and a 4-4-2, just to basically get people onto the pitch. Because if you think about that, I mean, we're going to the midfield, Andrew. If it is that, you're probably looking at a midfield made up of, I'm guessing Dan Neil as a cert. He'll come into that Chaka role in the number 6 position where he played all of last season. Chris Rigg, who's not had a lot of pre-season minutes either, he's probably going to be looking to at least get an hour or 70 minutes, maybe even a full game, because he didn't get a full 90 over pre-season. And then Enzo Lefebvre, but it's where Enzo Lefebvre plays. So, if it's a 4-3-3, he's going to play in the 8th position. If it's a 4-4-2, he'll be out on the wide left again. I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to really know that one until closer to kick-off. But I don't think it matters really because the personnel stays the same, doesn't it? Whether it's a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, those same players will probably start the game. It just depends where.
Yeah, the personnel is probably going to be easier to nail down than the tactics. I just think that he'll go closer to a 4-3-3. And let's face facts. In most games, Sunderland do show a bit of flexibility, and they start with what's not you would normally describe as a 4-3-3. But at different points in the match, they do change it, and people move to different areas. But for the main, I think we'll be looking at what you would feel is more traditionally a 4-3-3. Because of one of the names you mentioned there, Mark Guiu, if he's going to be asked to do that job in the Premier League, it's worth just giving him a bit of practice doing it now. If you have him playing in a traditional 2 up top alongside Isidore, that's going to be no good to him when we're away from home under the cosh and we're trying to use him as an outlet. He needs to show us that he can do that job as a lone striker. So I think it will be in the main 4-3-3, but with a little room to move that around as the game goes on.
I think in and out of possession, our shape's always, very different. So you'll almost get like whoever's playing up front, a midfielder will join them in a 2 to lead the press, and the rest of the midfield falls back into a 4. And I can see that happening in this game. I think it'll be, when we've not got the ball, you'll have Enzo Lefebvre probably covering the left-hand side, and Patrick Roberts, I think, will start on the right with Dan Neil and Rigg as the middle 2. And then when we've got the ball, it'll probably move into a more of a 4-3-3. I mean, but like I say, we'll not know until we see the game. But I think you're right. The personnel will probably be the same. So, yeah, midfield I think picks itself. Probably a little bit harsh on Alan Brown, but Alan Brown's not going to be playing many games. I think, to be honest, and Régis Le Bris was asked this. I don't know if you watched the embargoed press conference that they released before the Burnley game, but he was asked straight up about Alan Brown, and he said, he basically said, he didn't write off the opportunity for him to leave, effectively. And that's not to say he won't play a part in this game. I think he'll be on the bench, but I just don't think he'll be starting this one. So, you're looking at the midfield, then, it's probably going to be Neil, Rigg, Lefebvre. And then I mentioned before the wide positions are potentially in a 4. It's very different. And, when we've got the ball, we might be in a 3. But Patrick Roberts on the right-hand side is what I'm guessing will happen. He came on in the game on Saturday. We didn't really get him the ball, actually. I was a bit disappointed, but we'll not talk too much about Burnley, but I think just the fact he was trusted to come onto the pitch says that, he's still in the manager's plans. He's still part of the squad. So I would think it's probably going to be Roberts with Isidore covering that left-hand side, maybe interchanging with Lefebvre. Do you see anything else?
I think that'll be...
is there?
Yeah, I think it'll be Roberts on the right. I would have, obviously, mentioned before, the middle 3. It'll be Régis Lefebvre and Neil Warnock. That'll be my...
Yeah.
Certainly, unless they're thinking like, obviously, Saturday, the first start on Saturday, and then they might give, whoever he's coming in for, maybe a Talby or whatever a go. But, I think it'll be Lefebvre. And then, obviously, Roberts, I agree with you, actually, with on Saturday, because when he came on, I thought, you know what, I think it's probably the right time. I didn't necessarily agree with bringing Talby off, because I thought Talby actually did all right. But, I thought this is his chance here, running up against, because they were getting tired on Saturday. This is what he can do. He gets us into those positions, can't he? You know what I mean? And we never passed the ball to him. Just all went down the left. It was, what the hell are we doing? But this is ideal for him, again, up against a League One opposition to try and cause havoc, try and get a goal, which I think will do him the world of confidence as well. He's got a big part to play this season. I still think that with Roberts. Then obviously the big question is we're getting into is, where do we put Wilson Isidore? Now, for me, I think he's got to go on the left, just because they're going to have to give Gio a 90 minutes one way or the other soon. And Gu's probably less tactically flexible than Isidore. He's a nine, isn't he? He's an out-and-out striker where Isidore can play wide left. We know that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, the the Roberts conundrum is start him if he plays well tomorrow, tonight. Sorry, starts gets a couple of goals or assist or whatever. Is he straight in on Saturday? Because we're still, there's still a few question marks on Tardy. So we got to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Plus, it's at home, Stadium of Light. He'll thrive tomorrow.
Yeah. And also as well, whoever plays on the left is going to probably, Andrew, be up against Lynden Gooch, who makes a return to the Stadium of Light for this game. Before we were recording, I watched, he did an interview with Huddersfield's YouTube channel, just talked a little bit about the game and stuff. And I don't know if you saw the video when they won the penalty shootout against Leicester. He ran over the lad who scored. I think it was the goalkeeper he ran over to. It was either the goalkeeper or the lad who scored the winner. Anyways, he ran up to a teammate.
It was the keeper. Yeah, the keeper made a save, hadn't he?
Yeah, and he said, cheers, mate, I get to go home now. So he's obviously really looking forward to this game, Andrew. It'll be nice to see Lynden again, won't it?
It will be. I've got a lot of time for Lynden Gooch. He was around the club at a really difficult point. And it's tough when you're a young player trying to make a breakthrough and the team keep managing to get themselves relegated. But he was in no way the problem. He was a lad who worked hard. He was a good professional. He would play in any position. You could ask Lynden Gooch to do any job on a pitch and he will do that. Really good pro. I've got like I say, a lot of time for him. He does obviously have a lot of affection for Sunderland. I believe his wife is from the area and his kids were born here. So you wouldn't be surprised if once he retires, he ends up back living in the region. And it'll be nice for him to come along and hopefully get a good reception. I remember one time he played for Stoke and he had a poor game. There was a bit of a shame for him. I don't think that'll be the case. I think he'll want to give a good account of himself if he's selected. And as well, this is a mad thing for a team in a lower division. We can't even be sure if Huddersfield are going to rotate or not.
I was literally just about to say that, I just hope they play him. I really do.
Yeah.
I hope they're going to make a lot of changes as well, aren't they? And I just hope one of them isn't Gucci. I really love to see him. He deserves that, doesn't he?
He didn't start on Saturday. He was on the bench. I was looking, Lassie Sorensen started the game. And I looked at the team they played when they played Leicester, which was only a few weeks ago. And the team they beat Stevenage on Saturday 1-0. And only 4 of the players in the team on Saturday were in that team against Leicester. So they did rotate. That doesn't mean they're going to do the same thing for this one, but Huddersfield are second in League One. They want to get promoted. The cup is not a priority for Huddersfield. But I think Gooch will play just because he didn't play on Saturday. So he will get that opportunity to play,
Gav, that win against Stevenage was Stevenage's first defeat of the league season. So, that puts Huddersfield second. So they're up fighting at the top. They're having a good go at promotion. So, that might impact their thinking. But you wouldn't be surprised if Gooch was given the captain's armband as a senior player, coming somewhere where he's popular, and he'll give 100%. Like yourselves, I really do think he'll play. I hope he does, but sadly, I hope if it is Isidore who's up against him, I hope Isidore just shades it, and we're the winning team, and Gooch can get a good reception, even though they've not gone through to the next round.
Yeah, he did have a stinker for Stoke last season. He got took off as well. But bless him. We've got a lot of time for Lynden Gooch, particularly here at Roker Report. I think back to his time at the club, really, and there's not many Sunderland players who've scored winning goals for Sunderland at Wembley. Lynden Gooch did it. And it was just a shame there was nobody there to watch it, But he did do it. He scored the winner in the whatever final it was, Johnson's Paint Trophy at the time, and scored some important goals in other games. I mean, even that first game back in League One against Charlton, he scored the winning goal with a header, which I don't think he ever scored another header for us, but it was a great header. No. And there were other moments. I remember him scoring a screamer away at MK Dons. He had a season where I think he played majority of the time he played left wing, and he got 10 goals. He was flying for one season in League One, but he just I think the club had passed a few players who just, you've got to think how quick the progression of this club's been. We went from League One and we got promoted 3 years ago from League One, and we're now back in the Premier League. So it was always going to be difficult for everybody to keep up. Not everyone has. We've lost a lot along the way. But look, Lynden Gooch is still a favourite of mine. I do like him, and I think the Huddersfield fans will love him. I think because he's such a grafter, he gives everything, doesn't he? And then now he's sort of heading into his 30s soon. He kind of was made into a right back at Sunderland, and then he's had another 2 years at Stoke as a right back and done pretty well. So I think it's that old thing, isn't it? Once you start getting older, you start going further and further back on the pitch, and
being goal next season, isn't he?
yeah. He's I think right back's his position now. But for Sunderland, I can even think back to them games against Luton in the semi-final of the playoffs when we had nobody and Lynden Gooch was playing in a three at the back as a centre half, Yeah. And it was like
I think as have both said, you know what, he's one of them ones, if you told him to play and go, he'd go and go. A bit like the little one now, you know what I mean? Wherever you told him to go, he'd go, and he put it all in for the badge. He was a local lad, but he's been in the club since he was 10. Just a proper, decent person as well. I met him a couple of times. He's a lovely lad. He never has a bad word to say about us. Probably still a fan, you know what I mean? And these are the kind of players you don't they don't come about too often that way. You see, a lad who's made it really. So, for whatever happens, obviously I hope they lose tomorrow. You don't get us wrong, but I just wish them all the best. And I think you'll find it hard to have it, a Sunderland fan. I say this, Sunderland fan has got a bad word to say about Lynden Gooch, probably apart from my dad, who really didn't like him. But I don't know if that was due to something or other, but I think it was more when he was playing out wide for us. Just never a footballer in, all right. But he was the first one to jump off the couch when we scored against Tranmere down at Wembley. So there you go.
Yeah, got a lot of time for Gucci, let's say, but let's see how he does tomorrow. Hopefully Isidore ties him in knots, to be honest, because that means we'll have had a good night. So yeah, I mean, we've just kind of flew through the team there before, but it looks like, we're all expecting virtually 11 changes. I think it was 11 changes, wasn't it?
10
it was the one.
Seal was the one.
Well, Seal was
technically 11, isn't it? Yeah, technically 11.
Yeah, so I mean that's still a really strong team. Still a really strong team. And like I say, what I'm praying for out of this is that we come away with 11 headaches. We were talking when you do the post-match podcast, and you're talking, you're going, fuck's sake, how are we going to pick this team on Saturday? Because everybody was outstanding. Dew got a hat-trick, and Isidore got 2 assists and a goal, and, Dan Neil was outstanding, and Enzo Lefebvre was man of the match. These are the headaches you want. What I don't want to be doing is what happened after the Rio Vallecano pre-season game where we changed the full team, and it was crap. And we were like, well, None of these are going to get into the team on Saturday. None of them. That's the worst case scenario. This is an opportunity. And I think as well, and it's something we've not really talked about, but now we're in the Premier League. You want a cup run? I do. Anyways, I know survival's the aim, but I'd love to see us have a good run in the cup because nobody really takes the League Cup seriously. It does get called a Mickey Mouse Cup, and it is because Newcastle won it last year, and I'm going to call it that. But, I still want Sunderland to win it as well. So I would like to see us win this game and then get a good draw in the next round and just keep it's momentum, isn't it? Winning has to become a habit, I think. And you're not going to win many games this season. I keep repeating this on here, and I think people are going to have to get used to that. But this is a chance just to, get that feeling back because there was a bit of negativity after Burnley, and it was uncalled for, in my opinion. But this is a good chance to go into the Brentford game having won a game of football. And like I say, Andrew, we want to be sat here. We're talking about this as if though Régis Le Bris has got so many headaches to contend with when it comes to selections.
Definitely. Every manager or head coach wants to be able to look at their squad and have competition for places. I'm a big believer of something you said earlier about momentum and winning games and what have you. I don't think you can just turn it on and off like a tap. A win against Huddersfield just gets that mood back, gets the winning feeling back, so that on Saturday when we're playing Brentford, we've got a little bit of momentum behind us. And yeah, that would be the perfect scenario. Enjoyable game against Huddersfield. Those that are able to get there have come away feeling positive, and those that have been selected have given a good account of themselves and put themselves in the frame. Even if it's just a case of they start Saturday on the bench, as long as you then know that they are ready to go should the need arise. I mean, we've had 2 Premier League games already where we've had to change our defence. You know, Sunderland have always had injury concerns. It just seems to be the law, no matter who's in charge or what type of player we're signing. So you want to be confident that everybody who's waiting in the wings is ready to step in and do a job if needs be.
Yeah. Let's do some predictions, and before we go, what we're saying, Ant? Are we going to win this in normal time?
I mean,
penalties? What's happening?
Do you know what? Just to pull back slightly, when you read about the Real Vallecano game, this isn't Real Vallecano we're playing. You know what I mean? It's a team that's 2 divisions below us, not a team who's going to be fighting for Europe in the Spanish League. You know what I mean? Real Vallecano are a good side, and they quite rightly, you know what I mean, beat us. You know what I mean? Quite soundly. I expect this to be a win. I don't think it'll be routine or anything like that. I think Huddersfield will come and give it because I think they're a good side and everything like that. But for me, it's you've all mentioned there, it's momentum. You know, and this gives us a chance to go into Brentford a little bit like the fans will be a little bit more happy if we do win. Otherwise, the pressure might be on a little bit because it's 2 defeats in a row. We've lost at the stadium, and we need to win a lot of our games at Stadium of Light. So this is ideal for us, really. So I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to say Guillaume will score 2 and Chris Rigg will score 1.
Ooh. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a win. Our cup form is dreadful. So if nothing else, it would be nice to actually win a cup tie and make a bit of progress. Yeah, I think Huddersfield will be decent. They'll give us a bit of a game, but I'll say 2-0, and I'd really like to see Dan Neil score. He was our captain at Wembley, let's not forget, and now he's not even assured of a place. So it'd be nice to see him score, and let's get Mark Guillou off the mark, so that when he's playing against Brentford, he's flying high and banging them in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 2-1. I think Gooch is going to score against us. I've just got this feeling.
Right.
Yeah, I've just got this feeling he's going to score and then not know what to do with himself when he has to celebrate. It's the way, isn't it? That typical Sunderland thing again comes up. Lynden Gooch coming to the Stadium of Light, I think, yeah, maybe he'll get a goal. But I think we're going to win. I think the 2 strikers will score. I'm going with Guillou and Isidore to get a goal apiece. I just think they're going to be up for it because Mayenda's not a complete shoe-in to start every game. You know, I love him, but, you know, that striker position is still up for grabs. It would be nice to see somebody else score a goal and put themselves in the frame to start on Saturday. So, yeah, I'm going 2-1, but we're all being positive. What's more likely to happen is it'll be a shit 0-0 and it'll go to penalties, and then our great penalty record will come into play. And we'll see what happens then. But
to be fair, when you said you wanted 11 headaches, I was hoping not all of them are going to get injured. That'll be the big. As long as no centre half gets injured tomorrow, that'll do.
That's it. Yeah, let's see what happens then, anyways. But we'll be back with a reaction pod after the game. I think you're on with Martin and Brett, aren't you, Ant? Because you lads won't be at the game, so
can't wait for that.
That's an epic. That's coming up after the match. Like I say, hopefully talking about a win. Won't be much fun for anybody involved if we don't win, but we will be back regardless of the result. Me and Andrew are at the match, so our services are not required, Andrew, even though we offered them. We're the last resort, mate. So if people do hear us on the reaction pod, it's because one of these dropped out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be back with a reaction pod right through the week leading up to Brentford too. We will have other pods. This is a relatively short week. We're not going to have many of these where we have a midweek game breaking things up. But we will have a bunch of other stuff coming up as we lead up to the Brentford game. So if you're not already, get subscribed to How We're the Podcast, because there is loads for you to catch up on. We've even got lots of pods just in the last few days. You know, the reaction pod we did after the game, the Sunday supplement we did with Nick Barnes, which I really enjoyed, and of course on This Week, which is one of the highlights of my week. I love listening to them podcasts.
Unbelievable, aren't they? Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I will say for them, you know, and again, I want to say thanks to Chris and all them who do that. Like, obviously, my dad's had quite a bad year with his health, and he says it's his favourite part of the week is Monday and listening to all that back, just to like kind of get that little bit of, I don't know what he says. It just makes him smile all the time. So yeah, so fair play to everyone who's doing that, because it's really, really cheering him up. Like, so well done.
Hats off Andrew, Chris, Martin, Kelvin, and I've done it once, but you don't listen for me. I think we've got Rob Mason on next week, haven't we, Andrew, as well?
Aye, Rob's going to be on, and that's lovely. That's exactly why we do it. Get the memories flowing, have a bit of crack about Sunderland history, and hopefully there's a few young ones listening in as well, and slowly falling in love with the club.
Well, we got called young men at the start, so there we go.
There are young ones listening. Right, cheers, lads. Thank you very much. Thanks to the listeners. Like I say, we'll be back after the Huddersfield game with a reaction pod, so we'll see you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.